So Dana, first of all, thanks for being here. I'm sure a lot of your fighters over the years have wanted to get you in the octagon. So I appreciate the opportunity sitting here and chatting with me. First thing, obviously, huge announcement, the new coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, Lesnar, Dos Santos.
The way that it all happened, Cain Velasquez ended up getting hurt. He tore his rotator cuff, and he's going to be out for 8 months. This does work out for The Ultimate Fighter because there's no way that Dos Santos is just going to sit on the bench for another 8 months. This guy's got to get in there and get active for him to get the exposure. The millions and millions of people that watch The Ultimate Fighter now to learn about this guy and his personality. And obviously, Brock Lesnar's,
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he's Brock Lesnar, and this is going to be, this is seriously, as good as it is for the show and everything else, it's going to be a rough 6 weeks for me.
Right. How important is this show, not only to create the popularity that these guys have, but also as an entrance point into the UFC?
It's been incredible for us. As you look along the walls and see all the guys who fought here, guys who are still at the top of their weight divisions, this show not only introduces people to new talent, these guys come in this gym a certain level and leave a whole nother level. I don't see The Ultimate Fighter ever going away. This thing's going to be on TV for a long time.
He's getting teed off on. He's down. He's out. It's all over.
When the UFC and mixed martial arts first aired on TV, a lot of people were like, oh, it's this brutal sport, and they're just beating the crap out of each other. It's not beautiful like boxing.
In the beginning, the traditionalists, they weren't big fans of the UFC. Bruce Lee was preaching this back in the 60s. They do all these katas and all these things. None of that worked, because the reality is everybody has different attributes. You have to work with your attributes and what really works for you. You use what works, you throw the rest away. The new sport is mixed martial arts, and these kids are learning everything as opposed to the guys who got into this 10 years ago. Just the martial arts alone have evolved more in the last 20 years with the UFC than they have in the last 10,000 years.
UFC being the foundation of this brand is the juggernaut, and they've had other companies that have signed huge names in the hopes that they would bring some of your audience over.
The UFC brand has become this thing where people know, if I'm a fight fan, I know exactly what I'm going to get. When you buy a fight and you're looking to be entertained, you're looking for that holy moment. And people have come to learn that UFC delivers.
Looking for the finish. Shane Carwin.
I believe before a guy threw a ball through a circle, a guy hit a ball with a stick, 2 men were put on this earth, somebody threw a punch, and whoever was standing around ran over and watched it, man. It's who we are as human beings. Fighting is in our DNA, man. We get it and we like it.
On that note, it's not even necessarily this kind of morbid curiosity. I want to talk about the fight for the troops.
First one we did was last year, and we raised over $4.5 million for a traumatic brain injury. They were building a research center, and they needed the rest of the money. We were lucky enough that we were able to raise it and finish this building. Now this fight for the troops is actually going toward traumatic brain injury research.
How important is it for the UFC and for you personally to have this relationship with our armed forces?
Yeah, it's awesome. And I don't really like to talk about it too much in interviews and act like all rah-rah, like it's some big PR stunt, because it's not. We've been doing stuff for the military since the day we bought this company, whether it was shipping T-shirts and DVDs and everything else. Once I saw how these guys were coming back from the war and how they weren't being taken care of by our government, by our country, it blew me away, and I couldn't even believe that was possible. That was the day I knew we had to be involved with helping these kids that are coming back from the war.
Why is there still no consistent judging system?
Again, the sport's so young. If you look at things like the NFL and basketball and baseball, there's still some bad calls. Normally, their stuff is right on. It's never going to be a perfect system, but ours are so messed up right now. The UFC, it's out of our hands. We're regulated by the athletic commissions. So whatever state we're in, basically the government comes in and oversees us and tells us what to do. And they have a lot of work to do as far as the judging and reffing, too.
Are we going to see more countries accept the UFC before we see individual states do so?
Well, there's only one state left that we got to get, and that's New York. It's financially amazing for the city when we roll into town. So it makes no sense there. There's never been a death or serious injury in the almost 20-year history of the UFC. So that makes no sense. So as we sit down and we start to look at this thing, it really doesn't make sense why we're not in New York.
A fight in Madison Square Garden this year? What are we thinking?
Next year.
Next year?
Yes.
All right, man. Well, thanks again, brother.
Thanks.